My boyfriend texted, I told my parents you're a doctor. Don't correct them at Thanksgiving. You're a paramedic. At dinner, his mom asked about my practice. I smiled and said, I work on an ambulance saving lives before they reach doctors. His father shook my hand and said, That's even more heroic. The look on Grant's face when his lie turned around and swallowed him whole was something I will never forget. My name is Avery Monroe. I'm 31 years old, and I've been a paramedic in a full-time 911 system for 8 years. I started as an EMT when I was 22. I earned my paramedic certification 2 years later, and since then, my life has been measured in sirens, dispatch tones, hospital doors, and the seconds between panic and action. Cardiac arrests, car wrecks, overdoses, strokes, children struggling to breathe while their parents shake beside them. The kind of calls people talk about in quiet voices because saying the details too loudly makes them feel too real. I make decent money, not glamorous money, not struggling money, steady money with overtime, bruised knees, ruined sleep, and uniforms that smell faintly like antiseptic no matter how many times I wash them. And I love my job. I need that understood from the beginning because that was the one thing Grant never really accepted. I love the pressure. I love the problem solving. I love that strange, brutal calm that takes over when everyone else is falling apart, and I have 15 seconds to make a decision that might decide whether someone's mother sees another Christmas. I love my crew. I love the dark humor that keeps us from breaking. I love stepping into the worst moment of a stranger's life and becoming the person in the room who knows what to do next. What I do not love is the way certain people react when I tell them what I do. There are two kinds of reactions. Some people look at me like I just said I walk into burning buildings for fun. They say, wow, I could never do that, and even when it is awkward, they usually mean it kindly. Other people pause, just slightly. A little recalculation moves behind their eyes, like the word paramedic dropped me a few floors in some invisible building where status mattered more than courage. Grant was the second kind. We had been together for 10 months. He worked in pharmaceutical sales. Good company, good territory, expensive watch, leased Audi, perfect haircut. He had mastered that polished look of a man who wanted everyone to know he was successful without appearing desperate for them to notice. His family cared about titles. His father was a retired hospital administrator. His mother had been a nurse practitioner before she stopped working. His older brother was married to a cardiologist. His younger sister was in law school. In Grant's family, a job was not just a job. It was a scoreboard. And at first, I told myself I was imagining it. Grant liked me. I know he did. He liked that I stayed calm under pressure. He liked my confidence. He liked that I could walk into chaos and come out steady. He liked my stories too, because first responder stories work well at dinner parties. People lean in, they ask questions, they get to stand near danger without ever touching it. But he did not like saying the word paramedic. I noticed it about 4 months in. We were having dinner with some of his friends when one of them asked what I did. I opened my mouth, but Grant answered first. She's in emergency medicine. It was not technically false. That was the problem. It was vague enough to sound polished and slippery enough to let people assume something bigger. Another time, at one of his work events, a colleague asked, So, emergency medicine? Are you a doctor? Before I could answer, Grant put his hand on my lower back and said, She works in pre-hospital care. The colleague nodded like that explained anything and moved on. In the car afterward, I said, You can just tell people I'm a paramedic. Grant laughed softly, like I was being difficult in a cute way. I know, he said, but pre-hospital care sounds more professional. I turned toward him. Paramedic is professional. He glanced at me, then back at the road. You know what I mean. I didn't, but I let it go. That was my mistake. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, Grant told me his parents had invited us for the holiday. Big family dinner. His brother and the cardiologist would be there. His younger sister. An aunt, an uncle, grandparents, the whole production. It was the first time I would meet most of them. I wanted to make a good impression. I bought a nice sweater. I asked what wine his parents liked. I checked my schedule twice to make sure I was not coming straight from a shift looking half dead. Then, 2 days before Thanksgiving, my phone buzzed while I was restocking cabinets in the ambulance bay. Grant had texted, Hey, quick thing. I told my parents you're a doctor, emergency medicine doctor. Don't correct them at Thanksgiving, okay? It's just easier. Love you. I read it once. Then I read it again. For a few seconds, I just stood there with gauze in one hand and my phone in the other, feeling something in my chest tighten in a way I did not have a name for yet. Finally, I typed back. You told your parents I'm a doctor? He replied almost immediately. Emergency medicine doctor, which is basically what you do anyway. I stared at the screen. It is fundamentally not what I do. Don't make it a whole thing. Nobody's going to quiz you. You want me to lie to your family? It's not lying, it's just not correcting an assumption. An assumption you created. There was a pause. Then he sent the message that told me everything, even though I was not ready to admit it yet. My brother's wife is a cardiologist. My sister is going to be a lawyer. I just want my parents to feel good about us. Not proud of us. Not happy for us. Comfortable with us. As if I was something that needed to be softened before presentation. I typed, "They should feel good about us because we're good together, not because of a fake credential." He answered, "You're being difficult." Before I could respond, the tones dropped. Chest pain. 68-year-old male. Possible heart attack. I put my phone away, climbed into the rig, and went to work. That night, I helped intubate a man in his living room while his wife stood barefoot in the hallway whispering prayers. He coded in the truck. We got him back. We delivered him to the ER with a pulse. That was what I did. And somehow, to the man who claimed to love me, it still needed a better title. I didn't bring it up again before Thanksgiving. Grant took my silence as agreement. That was his first mistake. Grant's parents' house looked exactly like a place where holidays were treated like staged productions. Perfect lawn, perfect wreath, perfect dining room that probably sat empty 11 months out of the year and came alive only when there were enough people present to admire the china. I brought 2 bottles of wine. Not cheap, not showy. The kind that said I knew how to show up without begging to impress anyone. Grant's mother greeted us warmly, but I could feel the evaluation behind her smile. His father had one of those firm, measured handshakes that told you what kind of man he was before he said much. Direct, controlled. The kind of person who looked you in the eye and expected you to do the same. His older brother was polite, if a little stiff. The cardiologist's wife was pleasant. His younger sister looked exhausted in the specific way only law students can. Everything started normally. Turkey carving, mashed potatoes, warm rolls, small talk, the familiar holiday choreography. For 20 minutes, I almost convinced myself Grant had panicked for nothing. Maybe he regretted the lie. Maybe the subject would never come up. Maybe I would get through dinner without having to choose between protecting him and respecting myself. Then his mother turned to me. "So," she said with a warm smile, "tell us about your practice. Are you hospital-based?" The table did not go completely silent, but enough people were listening. Beside me, Grant went rigid. Not subtly, his whole body changed, like a man bracing for impact. I had one clean second to decide what kind of woman I was going to be. I could smile. I could play along. I could say something vague and protect Grant from the consequences of his own lie. I could let his family keep admiring someone I had never claimed to be. Or I could tell the truth. So I smiled. Friendly, calm, clear. "I actually work on an ambulance," I said. "I'm a paramedic. I save lives before patients ever make it to the doctors." The pause that followed was not dramatic. No forks dropped. No one gasped. It was quieter than that. A small recalibration around the table. Grant made the tiniest sound beside me. A sharp breath he could not quite hold back. His mother blinked. "Oh, I thought—" "That's okay," I said lightly. "Common misunderstanding." I looked directly at Grant when I said it. He stared at his plate. Then something happened he absolutely had not planned for. His father set down his fork. "Paramedic?" "Yes, sir." "911 system?" "Yes." "What schedule?" 24-hour shifts. He nodded slowly. "What kind of calls?" Now the whole table was listening. And I answered. Not dramatically, not trying to impress anyone, just honestly. Cardiac arrests, trauma, pediatric emergencies, overdoses, stroke calls, vehicle entrapments, critical airway interventions, field decisions with incomplete information, patients crashing in transit before the hospital ever saw them. The cardiologist's wife started asking questions. Real questions. Protocol questions. Grant's father asked what medications we carried, what decision authority we had, how often we worked without immediate physician support. He understood the system, really understood it. Then he leaned back in his chair and said something that changed the entire room. "I ran a hospital for over 20 years, he said. He looked directly at me. "And you know who I respected most?" The table went still. "The paramedics." Grant looked up fast. His father continued, calm and certain. "ER physicians have imaging, labs, specialists, resources. You do the first fight in the back of a moving vehicle with partial information and no safety net." Then he stood. Actually stood. He reached across the table and held out his hand. That's even more heroic than what Grant told us. Silence. Absolute silence. I stood automatically and shook his hand. In the corner of my eye, I saw Grant's face. Humiliation, shock, anger, panic, disbelief. All of it flashed across him at once, and for the first time, I understood something clearly. He had not been afraid they would look down on me. He had been afraid they wouldn't. His brother's wife spoke next. My husband says paramedics are some of the most underappreciated people in healthcare. Her husband nodded. Some of the patients we save only make it to us because someone like you kept them alive long enough. Grant's younger sister smiled. That's actually kind of amazing. His mother's expression softened. That sounds emotionally brutal. It can be, I said. How do you handle it? And just like that, everything shifted. The next hour became one of the best conversations I had had in months, maybe years. No pretending, no editing, no euphemisms. Just truth. Grant's father asked about the opioid crisis. His mother asked about burnout. The cardiologist asked about handoff times. His sister asked if I had ever been scared on a call. I told her yes. Of course I had. Anyone who says otherwise is lying. And for the first time in my entire relationship with Grant, I was being seen exactly as I was. No translation. No cleanup. No social packaging. Just me. Grant barely spoke. He smiled when expected. He nodded occasionally. But mostly, he sat there silently while his family admired the very thing he had tried to erase. The drive home was quiet. 15 full minutes of silence. Then he said, "You humiliated me." I looked out the passenger window for a second before answering. I told the truth. I told you not to correct them. You told them I was the doctor. It was a simplification. No, it was a lie. He turned harder than necessary at a red light. My father made a scene. Your father shook my hand. He was trying to embarrass me. No, I said quietly. He was acknowledging me. His jaw tightened. You knew exactly what you were doing. Yes, I said. That surprised him. I looked at him fully. Yes, I decided I was not going to lie to your family. He laughed once, cold and unbelieving. Incredible. What's incredible is that you thought I would. The rest of the drive passed in silence. When we got home, he kicked off his shoes and turned toward me. I need space tonight. Then he walked into the bedroom and shut the door. I stood in the quiet apartment, staring at that closed door, and for the first time, I asked myself the question I should have asked months earlier. What exactly was he in love with? Me, or the version of me that sounded better at dinner parties? I slept on the couch. The television played some football game I barely watched. Around 2 a.m, staring at the ceiling, I realized Thanksgiving had not been the disaster Grant thought it was. It had been a reveal, and the real fallout had not even started yet. It started the next morning. Not with an apology, not with embarrassment, with anger. Grant came out of the bedroom already dressed. Immaculate as always, coffee in hand like the night before had been a minor inconvenience instead of a crack in the foundation. You made that bigger than it needed to be. I looked up from the couch. Did I? Yes. He said it so casually I almost laughed. My family did not need your full career TED Talk. That wasn't a TED Talk. You knew exactly what my father would do. I had no idea your father would stand up and shake my hand. Grant scoffed. Please. Then he delivered the first real blow. You have no ambition. It hit harder than I expected. Not because I believed it, because of how easily he said it, like the sentence had been waiting behind his teeth for months. I sat up straighter. Excuse me? You're 31. You're still a paramedic. Still. That word sat between us like an insult dressed as concern. I like my job. People like all kinds of things, he snapped. That doesn't mean they should settle. Saving lives is settling? You know what I mean. No, I said evenly. I really don't. He started pacing. You're smart enough to do more. More according to who? Medical school, PA school, hospital administration, something. I stared at him. You think the problem here is my lack of career planning? The problem, he said sharply, is that you're comfortable where you are. Yes, he blinked. What? Yes, I repeated. I am comfortable doing a job I'm proud of. That frustrated him more than any argument could have. God, Avery, don't you want more? More than what? Status, growth, better income, a better title. Finally, the truth without perfume. It was no longer concern or ambition. It was image. I stood. What you mean is better optics. That's unfair. No, I said. It's accurate. He left for work irritated. No apology, no reflection, nothing. And over the next week, things got worse. Not explosively. Strategically. Quietly. Like a campaign. The first thing I noticed was his laptop left open on the kitchen counter. PA school admissions. Highlighted tabs. Prerequisite lists. Salary comparisons. I closed it and said nothing. The next day, he forwarded me a job listing. Clinical operations coordinator. Subject line, thought this could be interesting. I deleted it. Then he bought a book. Literally bought a book. Transitioning from clinical practice to leadership. He placed it on my nightstand like a gift. Like I had asked. I picked it up, walked into the kitchen, and set it in front of him. I'm not reading this. He didn't even look embarrassed. I just thought it might help. With what? Expanding your thinking. My thinking is fine. He sighed. Avery, why are you so resistant to growth? I laughed. Actually laughed. Because you think changing my title is growth. He rolled his eyes. And that became the pattern. Pressure disguised as concern. Shame dressed up as support. Control wrapped in language soft enough to sound reasonable. Then came the family rewrite. Because Thanksgiving had not gone the way he wanted, so he needed a new version of events. I found out through his older brother's wife. She texted me unexpectedly. Hey, just wanted to say we really liked meeting you. That made me smile. Then another message came. Grant told us you felt defensive at dinner. But honestly, my father-in-law has not stopped talking about you. I stared at the screen. Defensive? Me? I typed back. Defensive about what exactly? 3 dots appeared. Then, that conversation about work. Apparently things got awkward afterward. I leaned back against the couch. I was not shocked. That bothered me more than the message itself. Grant was rewriting me now. The same way he had rewritten my job. I replied carefully. I told the truth when asked what I do. That was the awkward part. Her answer came fast. For what it's worth, everyone thought you were wonderful. Then, and my husband would absolutely love to show you the cath lab sometime. He said field medics don't get enough respect. I sat there staring at my phone. A cardiologist respected my work. Grant, my boyfriend, was embarrassed by it. That should have told me everything. But the breaking point came about a week later. I was on shift. Brutal day. Pediatric asthma. 2 car accidents. Stroke call. Fall trauma. By midnight, I had barely eaten. I checked my phone while inhaling bad station coffee. A text from Grant. I opened it and felt my whole body go still. I told my friends you're applying to PA school. They're all excited for you. For a second, all I could do was stare. Then I typed, I am not applying to PA school. His response? Relax, it's not a big deal. Correct it. Maybe if people start expecting it, you'll get motivated. I read that twice. My jaw tightened. Tell them the truth. God, Avery, you are exhausting. At that exact moment, tones dropped. Overdose. Unresponsive mail. We rolled out. 20 minutes later, I was kneeling on a filthy apartment floor, pushing Narcan into a stranger's vein while my boyfriend was somewhere building an imaginary version of my future for social approval. The contrast hit so hard it almost made me dizzy. At 1:47 a.m., I helped save a man's life. At 2:13 a.m., I sat in the ambulance staring at Grant's text. And something inside me went cold. Not numb. Clear. The next morning, I went home. Grant was in the kitchen. Perfect suit, perfect tie, perfect face. I set my bag down. We need to talk. He didn't even look worried. What now? What now, I repeated, is for you to explain why your friends think I'm applying to PA school. He shrugged. It was conversation. It was a lie. It was motivation. No, I said, it was manipulation. He exhaled sharply. You make everything dramatic. No, I'm finally naming it correctly. He crossed his arms. I just think you could do better. Better than what? Better than this. This? He gestured vaguely. The ambulance thing. The ambulance thing. Not my career. Not my profession. The ambulance thing. And in that moment, I realized something ugly. Grant had never respected what I did. He only respected the version of it he could repackage. I looked at him. Really looked at him. And suddenly, 10 months of small moments rearranged themselves into something painfully obvious. The vague introductions. The pre-hospital care phrasing. The hand on my back when people assumed doctor. The edited explanations. The fake PA school story. The careful rebranding. It had never been one awkward misunderstanding. It had been a pattern. You've been ashamed of me this entire time. Grant laughed once. Sharp, defensive. That is so dramatic. Is it? Yes. Then answer one question. He crossed his arms. Fine. Do you feel proud telling people your girlfriend is a paramedic? Silence. That was the answer before he ever opened his mouth. Finally, he said, I just think certain things sound better in certain environments. I nodded slowly. No denial. No apology. Just polished dishonesty. So the answer is no. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. He rubbed his forehead. Avery, you're making this emotional instead of practical. I smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. Practical? Yes. You lied about my profession. I framed it. You invented career plans for me. I encouraged growth. You tried to make me easier to present. That is not fair. Then he snapped. Do you think I enjoy standing at company events while people talk about surgeons and attorneys and founders, and then saying my girlfriend rides around in an ambulance? The room went completely still. There it was, the honest version. Raw, ugly, unfiltered. Not concern, not ambition, embarrassment. I stared at him. You really said that. He looked away immediately, like even he heard how bad it sounded. But he was too far in now. My brother's wife is a cardiologist. I said nothing. My sister's going to be a lawyer. Still nothing. And you, I said quietly, are dating someone who saves lives for a living. His jaw tightened. You know what I mean. No, I said, I know exactly what you mean. And then the strangest calm came over me. Not devastation, not hysteria. Clarity. I think we should break up. He laughed. Not because it was funny, because he genuinely thought I was bluffing. You're ending a relationship over this? No. I picked up my overnight bag. I'm ending a relationship because you do not respect me. That is ridiculous. You told your parents I was a doctor. That was one thing. You told your friends I was applying to PA school. That was harmless. You have spent months trying to edit my life into something you can comfortably present. That's not true. It is. His expression shifted. Anger softened into panic. Avery. No. You're overreacting. No. I was trying to help. No. He followed me across the apartment. Avery, come on. I grabbed my charger, my toiletries, and a sweatshirt. Don't do this. I turned. I spend my days climbing into wrecked cars, treating dying strangers, and making split-second decisions under pressure. He froze. This, I said, this is not pressure. That shut him up. I went to stay with my friend Nicole, former EMT, now fire department, the kind of woman who hands you whiskey before asking questions. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. Then she leaned back and said, he wanted a trophy with a cleaner label. That was brutal, because it was true. The breakup unfolded exactly how bad breakups do. Not with accountability, with strategy. Grant texted constantly. Not apologies. Negotiations. We have communication differences. You misunderstood my intentions. This escalated unnecessarily. I just want you to be your best self. That phrase made me sick, because your best self meant his preferred version. Not me. Then came the call. Tuesday evening. Unknown number. I answered. Hello? Avery? A deep male voice. Grant's father. I sat up immediately. Mr. Calloway, I heard you and Grant ended things. Yes, sir. A pause. Then he said, he told his mother you refused to improve yourself. I closed my eyes. Of course. Is that accurate? No, sir. Silence. So I told him everything. The text before Thanksgiving. The fake doctor story. The PA school lie. The pressure. The shame. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't decorate it. I just told the truth. When I finished, there was a long pause. Then he said quietly, he told us you were a doctor. Yes. And asked you to play along. Yes. You refused. Yes. Another silence. Then his voice changed. Softer. He was wrong. That hit harder than I expected. I swallowed. He continued. After Thanksgiving dinner, I told my wife you were the most genuine person either of my sons has ever brought home. I looked down at my hands. I meant it. My throat tightened. Thank you. No, he said, thank you. That surprised me. For what? For doing work most people couldn't handle for 10 minutes. I laughed weakly. He kept going. I spent over 20 years in hospital administration. I watched physicians break under pressure that paramedics manage every single week. I said nothing, because suddenly emotion was sitting in my chest where anger had been. What you do matters, Avery. Quiet. Steady. Absolute. Those 5 words nearly broke me. Then he said something I will always remember. I'm going to talk to my son. You don't have to. I know. A pause. But he needs to hear that what he did was shameful. I stared at the wall. Thank you. Will it change your decision? No. Good. That actually made me laugh. A tired, shocked little laugh. Good? Yes, he said. Because if someone loves you correctly, they don't try to rename you. I sat there speechless. Then he added, for what it's worth, I think you made the right decision. After the call ended, I sat on Nicole's couch for a long time doing absolutely nothing. Sometimes validation from the right person lands harder than love from the wrong one. And for the first time since Thanksgiving, I knew I was not the one who should have been embarrassed. Grant did not take the breakup like an emotionally mature adult. He took it like a man who believed persuasion was still an option. For the first few days, the texts kept coming. Not desperate exactly. Calculated. Avery, I think emotions are distorting this. Avery, relationships require flexibility. Avery, I was trying to help you grow. Grow. As if loving my actual life was some kind of developmental defect. I ignored all of them. Then the tone changed. I miss you. This feels stupid. We can fix this. Then, I overreacted. Interesting. Not I was wrong. Not I lied. Not I disrespected you. Just I overreacted. The man had the emotional accountability of a corporate press release. Nicole read one over my shoulder and said, "Does he always apologize like he's avoiding legal exposure?" I laughed harder than I expected. Then things escalated, because apparently being ignored wounded Grant more than the breakup itself. A mutual friend called me. Rachel, someone from a couple's dinner group we used to see occasionally. She sounded uncomfortable immediately. Hey, weird question. Okay. Grant said there may have been someone else. I blinked. Excuse me? He said the breakup felt sudden, and honestly, I just wanted to ask before repeating anything. I sat up straighter, not because I was shocked, because I was offended by how predictable it was. If he could not frame me as ungrateful, he would frame me as disloyal. No, I said calmly, there was no one else. A pause. Then I added, we broke up because he lied to his parents and friends about my career for months because he was embarrassed I'm a paramedic. Silence. Rachel finally said, that is weirdly specific. Because it's true. And honestly, that was enough. Truth has a texture. Details make lies collapse fast. Apparently, Rachel went back to Grant with exactly what I told her. I don't know how that conversation went, but the rumor died within 48 hours. No follow-up calls, no whispered social fallout, nothing. Because accusing me of cheating would have required Grant to explain why I supposedly cheated. And that path led directly back to the real story, which was far uglier for him. Then came the move out. To his credit, he handled logistics cleanly. No screaming, no property drama, no childish withholding of belongings. He packed his clothes. His expensive skincare disappeared from the bathroom. The strange health snacks I never touched vanished from the kitchen. The apartment got quieter, cleaner, less tense. Before leaving, he placed his key on the counter and a handwritten note. I almost threw it away unread. Almost. Instead, I opened it. One sentence. I hope you find someone who doesn't want better for you. I stared at it for a long time. Then I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was incredible. Even at the end, he still did not understand. Wanting me to become someone else was not wanting better for me. It was wanting something different from me. Huge difference. Nicole read the note and said, wow, that's almost impressively self-unaware. Exactly. Then came one final little performance, because apparently the universe wanted me to get the complete set. Rachel called again. This time less awkward. More annoyed. So, she said, he definitely told people you blindsided him. I leaned against the kitchen counter. Did he? Also implied he suspected emotional cheating. I laughed. Still? Not anymore. What changed? Rachel snorted. I asked what your mystery affair partner's name was. I laughed harder. And? He got weirdly vague. Of course he did. Rachel continued. Then I asked why exactly you two broke up. I waited. And when he said something about communication issues, I told him your version. I smiled. How did that go? Silence. That checked out. Then she added, for what it's worth, if a man lies about your profession because it embarrasses him, dumping him feels extremely reasonable. Thank you. Also, she said dryly, my husband says paramedics are terrifying in a competent way. That made me laugh. Terrifying in a competent way? His words. I liked that. The strangest emotional part was that I did not miss Grant the way I thought I would. I expected heartbreak to be louder. Messier, more dramatic. But mostly I felt disappointed. Not in the relationship. In him. Because the saddest part was that his family would have accepted me exactly as I was. His father respected me. His brother's wife respected me. Even his younger sister thought my work was impressive. Grant created a problem that never actually existed. All because of appearances. All because he cared more about the story than the truth. A few days later, his father texted me. Short message. Simple. If you ever need a professional or personal reference, call me. You're a remarkable woman. I read that message 3 times, saved it, and didn't reply for nearly an hour because it made me unexpectedly emotional. Not romantic emotional, human emotional. Because sometimes the kindness that reaches you after a breakup does not come from the person you dated. It comes from the people who saw what they failed to appreciate. And that hits differently. Still, closure was not finished with me yet. Because a few weeks later, I ran into someone I absolutely did not expect. And that conversation settled everything. The apartment felt strange after Grant left. Not heartbreak strange. Echo strange. Like a room where background noise had disappeared, but your brain kept expecting it to return. His coffee pods were gone. His cologne faded from the bathroom. The expensive protein drinks I hated disappeared from the fridge. I found one of his cufflinks under the couch, left it in a drawer for a week, then finally tossed it into a small box of forgotten things. The silence was cleaner than I expected. That surprised me. 10 months is long enough to build habits, long enough for routines to fuse, long enough that even the wrong person leaves traces behind. But I did not miss Grant. I missed the version of the relationship I thought I was in. That illusion took a little longer to die. Then work pulled me back. Work always does. That is one of the strange blessings of emergency medicine. No matter what is happening in your personal life, someone somewhere is having the worst day of theirs. And when the tones drop, your feelings become background noise. My first full shift after everything ended was brutal. Mid-morning trauma, elderly fall, respiratory distress, psych transport. Then, just after midnight, major vehicle collision. 19-year-old female driver, entrapped, severe bleeding. By the time we arrived, fire crews were already cutting the door. I climbed into twisted metal with broken glass pressing into my knees. Started an IV, managed her airway, kept pressure on the bleeding, while firefighters worked around us. She kept staring at me, terrified. Am I going to die? No, I said firmly, even though I could not promise that. Not tonight. She nodded like she believed me. For 23 minutes, while hydraulic tools screamed around us, I kept her conscious. Talking, breathing, alive. She survived. I saw the hospital follow up 11 days later. Discharged. Walking. Alive. That is what I do. Not the ambulance thing. Not some placeholder until a shinier career arrives. This. That week, my crew noticed something was off. Nobody asked invasive questions. That is not really how first responders work. Instead, my partner brought me coffee without asking. My captain moved me to a lighter training day after noticing I looked wrecked. Nicole kept showing up with takeout and sarcasm. Support in this world looks practical, quiet, reliable. I appreciated that. I wasn't dating, not dramatically. Not because I was shattered, because my standards had changed. The next person who sat beside me at a dinner table needed to say paramedic with pride. Not apology, not translation, not social editing. That felt non-negotiable now. Then, about 3 weeks later, I stopped at a hardware store after shift. Zip ties, electrical tape, random station supplies. I was half exhausted, still in jeans and a hoodie, and there he was, Grant's father, holding a bag of mulch. For one ridiculous second, I considered pretending I had not seen him. Too late. He spotted me and smiled immediately. Avery. I smiled back. Mr. Calloway. We ended up talking in the middle of aisle 12 like old acquaintances. He asked about work, not politely, genuinely. So I told him about the cardiac arrest we had gotten back, the overdose save, the teenage trauma patient. He listened exactly the way he had at Thanksgiving, completely present, interested, respectful. After about 10 minutes, we started to part ways. Then he reached out and shook my hand again. Same grip, same direct eye contact. And he said, "You're still the most impressive woman my son ever brought home." I laughed softly. "Thank you." He shook his head. "No, I mean it." Something in his expression changed. Not pity, regret. "For what it's worth," he said, "none of this changed my opinion of you." I swallowed. He continued, "My son had something very good. Quiet. Then, he just cared about the wrong things." That hit harder than I expected. Because he was right. Grant did not lose me because I was difficult, or defensive, or emotional. He lost me because he valued presentation more than truth. We said goodbye. I sat in my truck afterward for a few minutes doing absolutely nothing. Not crying. Not spiraling. Just sitting there. Because life is strange. Sometimes the person who sees you most clearly is not the one who claimed to love you. Sometimes it is their father in a hardware store holding landscaping supplies. Then I drove back to the station. Checked the rig. Restocked meds. Tested the monitor. Reset the airway bag. Normal things. The comforting rhythm of competence. At 2:14 a.m., the tones dropped. Chest pain. 61-year-old female. Possible MI. I was out the door in under 90 seconds. And as the ambulance pulled into the dark, sirens cutting through sleeping streets, I had one completely certain thought. I never needed a better title. I only needed the right person to respect the one I already had.